Hello, everyone. I am Sophia Ring, SP Saturn the 7th, and you are watching Anime Egotists. Enjoy!
And welcome back to the Anime Egotists, where you wouldn't want to be stuck with us in an office cubicle.
No, you would not.
That's correct. My name's Alex, and I don't have a favorite flavor of snow cone. I just like snow cones.
Yeah, but I always found that the flavors usually were all very similar, except for lemon lime.
Yeah. Or just, ice.
Yeah, and I'm Richard.
That's correct. And when it comes to anime, we all like to be happy. We all like to share good moments with each other, other pleasant, happy endings. But it would be really boring if everything was happy. It's as much as it sucks to say.
Yeah, I mean, in life, the sad moments make the happy moments that much better. So today we're actually here to talk about the saddest moments in anime.
That's correct. Get your tissues ready. No, not for that. But just get your tissues ready because some of these moments are just heartbreaking to see. Some of these moments you just can't get through. But don't worry. We're going to be doing a list of some of the most heartwarming anime moments because to me, that's just so much more fun to talk about.
Yeah, and as I said, starting out with the saddest moments makes those happier moments that much more enjoyable, I feel. So
I'm going to have a tough time narrowing down that list. But I also had a tough time with this list as well, so let's just get into it. Do you mind if I start?
go right ahead.
Alrighty, so the first sad moment for me, it's from Love Chunibyo and Other Delusions, and it's Dekomori breaks. Like, I've given this show a kind of a hard time, but in all seriousness, there's this girl named Deko Mori who I don't feel like I've talked about that much, and she's super Chunibyo. Like she's Rika's best friend, and she does everything in her power to help her whether that's beating up on somebody or just a simple conversation. But we learned that Rika's been told that she needs to stop being Chunibyo. Basically, she has to stop being herself. And we see that it takes a toll on her and she's completely broken about it. And she ends up going back to her back to her family's hometown. And Dekomori runs up to Yuta and says, "Why didn't you stop her? Why did you have to tell her to stop being Chunibyo?" It's like she couldn't live a happy life if all she was Chunibyo. And Dekomori basically starts not necessarily beating him up over it, but she starts snapping at him like, "But why? She was perfectly happy before all this." And Yuta kind of snaps her and says, "None of this is real. None of this is real. You know that." And after some convincing, Dekomori finally breaks and says, I know none of this is real." And she has tears pouring down her face and she runs off. It sucks because look, you don't want anything bad to happen to these characters, but at the same time, they get on your nerves a bit. At the same time, though, when somebody gets told that their world means nothing, it's kind of heartbreaking to see, especially since I don't know, we never really learned that much about Dekomori, but at the same time, you really feel bad that she's going through all of this.
Yeah, I mean, just it doesn't sound like a good moment at all. And with just to be told that what you're pretty much enjoying in life is not real and not worth doing, I can definitely see that this would be a very sad and disheartening moment.
Yeah. Now, of course, everything works out in the end, but like in the moment, you just want to give this girl a hug and tell her everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, I I can't relate because I was always allowed to have my own imagination, but God, I can't imagine that.
Yeah, it's not fun. But there were other moments, but I never talk about Deco Mori, so I'm going to give you some flowers by talking about one of the saddest moments in your life. I'm so sorry, Deco Mori.
All right. So my first one.
Go for it.
So I'm going to start out with one of my heavy hitters, and that's the Going Mary's Goodbye in One Piece.
It's not on my list, but it was going to be on another list of mine. But go ahead.
Yeah. So this arc in One Piece is very emotional. I mean, we've got Robin's "I want to live" moment. We've got Usopp leaving the crew because they found out that the Going Merry is damaged beyond repair. But then the Going Merry shows up, and it's not fully stated, but they kind of talk about how ships can kind of come alive in the One Piece world if they travel enough time with their crew and really love them. And the Going Merry is revealed to have kind of developed that, and you get this big, she came to the rescue of her crew, but now she's completely unsalvageable. There's nothing that can be done. So they give her a burial at sea. And you just feel the emotion coming off of every crew member as you hear this voice of the Going Merry saying goodbye to the crew and saying how much this adventure has meant to the ship itself, and that it's finally that it's happy to have at least been able to be there for the crew one last time. It is just a heartbreaking moment, and you realize that Luffy, despite everything he said to Usopp and all that, is really, he really did care about this ship. And it's, as I said, one of the most heartbreaking moments, in my opinion, in the series.
Yeah, normally I don't love the cliche of objects or animals randomly start talking, but if anything, it added to this because you just really learned that they cared about the ship and the ship did everything in its power to take care of them. Especially just knowing that, hey, maybe it could have been salvaged in some ways, and then it learned, well, once it saved everybody, no, but it did what it was supposed to do: provide and protect. It's at the point where like the ship feels like a member of the crew just as much as everybody else. And as cheesy as it sounds, if the One Piece rap included the ship itself and the ship itself got a verse like all the other characters, you wouldn't really fight it. And I know that's a cheesy way of putting it, but at the same time, it was a part of the crew just as much as everybody else.
Exactly. And as I said with Luffy, I mean, he openly admits that he did not take the best care of the Going Merry. He was reckless. He crashed him into rocks and all this. And that he's so sorry that he wishes that the Going Merry could have been repaired so that it could continue on its journey with them. And it just hits in the feels. I mean, I debated between this and Ace's death, and we've talked about Ace's death in the past, so I had to bring this moment up. It is really a sad moment in this series.
Yeah, I can definitely co-sign onto that. I can agree.
All right, so your next moment.
All right, you got the heavy one out of the way. I'm gonna get probably the heaviest one for me out of the way. It's Pokemon, and you already know what it is. It's Arbok and Weezing leaving.
I can understand it 100% co-signed.
This was the most heartbreaking thing I've seen. And here's the thing. Hey, at this point, they're all in the Hoenn region, and Team Rocket are doing Team Rocket stuff. But they find that there's a Pokemon poacher, a Pokemon hunter or poacher or whatever, and he's kidnapped a bunch of Ekans and Coughing. So Arbok and Weezing, of course, want to help, and it also just perfectly demonstrates, hey, Team Rocket do some bad stuff, but they're not monsters. They know exactly when things go too far. And they're fighting against a guy with a Tyranitar, which, let's be honest, is a kind of a scary Pokemon to go up against.
Mm-hmm.
So they keep fighting off and letting the Pokemon escape. And at one point, hey, the poacher is like taunting them. So Jesse and James straight up say, Arbok, Weezing, get your friends out of here. And Arbok and Weezing understandably don't want to do anything. They want to stay by, I don't want to say their masters, but their best friend. And James straight up says, we care about you far too much to let you guys get hurt or taken. And normally the montage thing doesn't completely work for me, but they do a montage of Jesse, James, and Meowth getting attacked and just wailed on as Arbok and Weezing have tears pouring down their face as they're leaving. You talk.
Yeah, no, I can 100% agree. This is one of those moments that you realize that while Team Rocket are the antagonists of the series, they aren't the bad guys of the series. Yes, they try to steal Pokemon, but in the end, they really do care so much about their Pokemon. And you see this consistently throughout the rest of the series with Jessie saying goodbye to her dust talks
Oh, that
later
broke
on.
me.
I mean, there's a ton. I mean, you always feel with James that he always cares about every single one of his Pokemon 100%. Jesse, I know, has the continues to have moments with like Gorgeist. I think when it there's one where it might be falling in love and it decides to stay with her, but their goodbyes always feel more emotional. It feels like almost than the Ash and his team whenever he says goodbye after at this point.
And I think I know the reason for that because Ash releases his Pokemon and it's always like, "Oh, I'll come back for you," or "I'll see you again." And with Team Rocket, they know this is probably it. I don't want it to be it, but this is probably it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think we may get like one flash in a later season of uh Weezing and Arbok leading the Coughing and Ekans, but other than that, we've never seen them again. Like other Pokemon, like Dustox and stuff, we get a couple flashes of every so often, but we do not see Ekans and Weezing or Arbok and Weezing ever again, really.
I will give the Sun and Moon series credit. In one of the earliest episodes, it shows them fishing, and James has a coughing lore, and Jesse has an Ekans lore. I saw that, I lost it. I'm
Mm.
like, please come back, please.
It's just even like I wish we'd gotten something. I just wish there was a little bit more to give there, just because that felt like the best partnerships they ever had.
Yeah. Here, tell you what, let's do this. Let's make an episode where they rescue the same Arbok and the Ekans and Wheezing and the Coughing, and then they go back to James's grandparents because James's grandparents seem awesome.
Yeah, I could have almost seen like if there was ever a time skip and they go into the future, just seen James become Pokemon Rangers and uh, go back and are helping Arbok and Weezing. I could see that happening, but
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's in my head camp, but like Arbok and Weezing leaving, probably in all honesty, it's probably the saddest moment in an anime for me. But I couldn't talk about it again. I didn't want to end on that note.
yeah. All right, so my next one,
Go for it.
I'll go with my one from Pokemon, which is only a handful of episodes before this. Ash, Misty, and Brock's goodbye at the end of Master Quest.
Oh damn it!
Now,
I just watched this last night.
I know, well, I didn't know that, but
I was about to say no, you didn't.
no, yeah, I did. I don't ask how, but yeah. But in all honesty, this broke me as a kid. I thought the series was ending. I mean, that was how bad I thought this was. It's a little less now that we've gotten Ash and Misty and Brock coming together every like 40 episodes or so. They what Misty or Brock shows up again, but at this point, Ash is going off on his own for the first time since the start of the series because Misty's been there in pretty much every episode since episode like 2. Brock's been there since like episode 5, with the exception of the Orange Islands. And it really doesn't feel right, especially when you're a kid who's spent, God, we've gone through like 5 seasons. So I was probably what, like, I think I started out 5 when the series started, and I was about 10 at this point. It's just heartbreaking to think about these people that you pretty much grew up getting to know, and now they're going away. Are they gone permanently? No, but at this point, we pretty much think they are. It's Ash starting a completely new journey. So
I will say the main reason I didn't put this on my list, one, because I already had a Pokemon thing and I didn't want to, but to me it also kind of doubles as heartwarming because there are moments where Misty's like, "Oh, I'm so glad I was lucky enough to meet you guys," and Ash and Brock are like, "I don't think that's it. I don't think it was luck. I think at some point we were kind of destined to all meet and become best friends." And you hear kind of Misty's voice, and she's like, "We're best friends," and I'm like, "Yes, obviously you're best friend." I don't know. It doubles as both, but I completely understand why it's on your list.
Yeah, it's mostly for how it made me feel the first time I remember watching it when it premiered on Kids WB back when we were kids.
No, I definitely understand that. And then the song they play in the background, I'm like, no, stop, please.
Mhm.
At the end, when Ash is like, I just wish I would have told you, and then they both show up, like, tell us what? Like I'm like, how the hell did they sneak up on him like that? And I even Brock's reaction because he's eating that donut, and he's like, must be the onion. And I'm like, yeah, me too. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, as I said, it's another emotional. I mean, and that's the thing. These are episodes are within like 20 episodes of each other.
Yeah, they decide to hurt us.
And I don't really remember if there's ever been another that close emotional set of moments in Pokemon where they're this close in back to back.
Did you cry when we got a second Max that one episode?
Uh, I don't really remember that episode, but
Where, like Max had a clone or something where it's like some old guy. I don't know. It wasn't even that close apart, but I understand. I just watched this moment last night. Still can't get through it.
yeah, it's a hard one because it literally set up the formula for the next God 4 5 seasons or I guess 10 seasons between Diamond and Pearl and the Advanced Generation.
Yeah, yeah, but I can co-sign. I agree.
All right. So your next moment.
Carly's death in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds.
Okay.
This one, yeah. Upon further rewatch, this is one of the most heartbreaking things I've seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because Carly starts off as just a bumbling news reporter. She's in love with Jack Atlas, but at the same time, she really wants a news story. And at the same time, they start spending time together. They both become stronger people. Jack opens up a little bit and realizes, yeah, I've lost the title, but I can still move forward. And ultimately, she ends up basically getting, well, in the Japanese version, she ends up getting killed and becoming a dark signer, which is the villain of the villains of the first part of the season. And Jack has to duel her the whole time. And the whole time he's trying to find ways of making sure Carly's safe. Like, oh, if I can talk to her while we're dueling, or if I can attack her in certain ways, then she'll be safe. But nothing seems to be working. When you fully know, in all honesty, Jack could probably win this duel really easily if he wanted to, but that's not what it's about. Ultimately, he realizes, well, oh, I couldn't keep you safe, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to end the duel in a tie, so we both basically lose. But Carly snaps out of it from her brainwashing, and she says, no, you need to finish the duel. Well, she ends up losing, and she's completely out of her brainwashing at this point, and she's thanking him for everything and telling him, go save the world, I'll be okay. Hey, and this is at the point where I'm like, oh, okay, Shadow Realm or whatever, or she'll fall unconscious into a coma. It's gonna be okay. But Jack thanks her for everything. They both hug, and she turns into dust and disappears. And I'm like, what? No, no, I couldn't. When I first saw that, I couldn't process it. Hey, I didn't start crying, but I paused the episode and I just sat there for about 10 minutes thinking, that didn't just happen, did it? I was heartbroken by that. Now, of course, she ends up being fine, but in that moment, with how dark 5Ds got, you thought she was gone.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine because Yu-Gi-Oh, at least the Americanized version for by 4Kids, people didn't die. They were brainwashed. They were sent to the Shadow Realm. They were trapped in a coma. That's what happened. But I know the Japanese is much darker with people getting killed, people getting heavily injured. So I can imagine, especially the first time watching this, where they're not actually there anymore. So they're not brainwashed. They're not just in a coma or in the shadow realm or something. They're gone. So that could be really hard.
Yeah, and especially since even in the English version, she turns into dust. They basically mince no words about it. And as she's completely gone, you see Jack like trying to feel around if she's still there, and she's not. And No, no, it like I said, it broke my heart the first time I saw it, and even when I saw her again, I'm like, please don't leave again. I can't go through that twice.
As I said, I can imagine because that is a massive change from the versions that, as I said, we grew up with, being much more kid friendly, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. And it's times like this, I think, maybe just saying Shadow Realm is just easier on the kids and probably easier on me at this point. But Carly's supposed death, yeah,
Because Alco side, it sounds a big change for that moment.
yeah,
All right. So my next one,
go for it.
it, I've talked about this moment, I think at least once before, as one of those deaths that I wish had been delayed a little bit. And that's Captain uh, Avatar's death in Space Battleship Yamato. This is both a heartwarming moment and a very sad moment all at the same time. He's pretty much he dies as Earth comes into view, and he knows he's completed his mission. The sad part is really that he doesn't get to see uh, Earth reborn to be the blue and green again. It's still at this point it's still a desert, pretty much being destroyed by the Gamelan super weapon, and he's just it's just you feel that I wish he could have made it just that little bit more to see Earth in its beautiful state that it was going to become again. But as I said, it's a kind of another one of those that's both happy and sad. He knows he's completed his mission. He's made it back to Earth with time, and they're going to save it. But the sad part is that he doesn't get to see it complete, and that's where the emotion comes in.
Yeah, I do think I do agree with you in the sense of if he just lasted a little bit longer and saw what happened and then passed away, it could have been easier to stomach, or maybe not. But I still think that's how they should have gone about it.
Yeah, I would have said kind of like his passing is the rebirth of Earth or something, and it kind of is, but it's just the where it is timed is where I have an issue. But I said, as I said, it's both a heartwarming and a very sad moment for me.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can definitely understand. And this show would you because you said there's a remake of it, like there's an older version and a newer version.
Yeah, there's one from like the late 70s, early 80s. That's the one I watched with my dad when I was growing up. And then one that premiered, got it like 5 or 6 years ago, and uh, has updated animation and uses the old one uses Americanized names. The main character is Derek Wildstar in that one.
That's a great name.
Yeah. Um, what's his name? And I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen the more recent one, which uses his the correct name from the Japanese show.
Well, I know the captain's name was Captain Yamato, correct?
Uh, it's been so long. The ship the
let's
ship
just
is the ship is the Argo, but it's well, that's the Americanized version. God, it's
yeah.
so confusing to
Either way,
remember which one's which.
either way, I'm not going to act like I've seen the show that recently, but yeah, I can co-sign. I can definitely understand how that could be how hard it was.
Yeah. All right. So your next one.
Mika kills Yoshimatsu, Lycoris Recoil. For a show about a bunch of teenage girls killing criminals and a psycho criminal also trying to kill people, you would think I'd be used to the deaths that happen. Nope, not really. So Mika is basically the boss of the cafe that Chisato and Takino work at. He's basically become like a father to them, and he's known for being very smart and analytical, but he's also like a nice guy who anybody could get along with. Then there's Yoshimatsu, who it's conflicting because he got exactly what he deserved, but it's still hard to watch because they used to be business partners. And one of the things that people don't know about Chisato is she has an artificial heart that once right around the time she turns 18, it's going to stop working and she's going to die. So, as it turns out, Yoshimatsu has a second one that would help her live longer, but he holds on to it because he wants Chisato to stop shooting at people and healing their wounds. He wants her to be basically a killing machine. And the sucky thing is, Mika and Yoshimatsu weren't just business partners. It's heavily implied that the two were in love. And it's not one of those relationships where it's two guys played as a stereotype, where it's like, oh, well, this one guy has crushed on this other guy, and it turns out they're related, but they're not actually. No, it's none of that. It's just they cared about each other. They were implied to be in love with each other, but one of them just went down a dark path. And at the end, when the world's falling apart, Miko realizes he has to be stopped. He has to be stopped. Otherwise, Chisato's going to die. Everybody's going to die. I don't want to do this. And he knows Chisato's not going to do this. She doesn't like killing people. So he has a gun in his hand when Yoshimatsu's down. He's trembling. And Yoshimatsu just smiles at him, kind of just saying, I know I messed up, but you have to do it. And Mika pulls the trigger and kills his former lover. Yeah, I wasn't ready for that. I wanted him gone, but at the same time, the fact that his old lover had to do it, it sucks. Sure, it leads to Chisato living and a happy ending, but it's hard to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of all the animes that I've seen that may not necessarily be lovers, but where this could have been the ending, where one of the good guys has to kill someone that they were close with in the past, if just because they went down such a path that they could not return from. I know a lot of animes don't play that up a lot. They usually make it like, yes, you've done bad things, but you can be redeemed. And this one, it sounds like they don't do that at all. So, which
No,
is
he's a total scumbag, and I wanted to be happy when he died. I'm like, oh, Mika, I'm so sorry.
yeah, I mean, God, I can definitely see why this would be a very sad moment, because it's not that you're feeling bad for him, you're feeling bad for his killer because he's doing what's right, but he still loves this person. So
Yeah, and the worst part is Chisato doesn't know. So we're going into season 2 with a pretty big secret that he's keeping from her.
yeah, it sounds like that'll be an interesting way to start season 2 off.
Yeah, well, they're stuck in Hawaii because I don't know, Hawaii's nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Ironically, the second when I went to Hawaii and came back, the show got announced like 5 minutes beforehand. Like, oh hey, Alex, you want to see this? Like Horse Recoil is coming back. I'm like, huh. I must have missed them when I was in Hawaii, but cool, works for me. But yeah,
They
sorry, go
they
ahead.
had they hadn't returned to film yet.
Yeah, but basically the idea that that one of the few differently toxic lovers in anime, gay lovers in anime, and they just had to rip it away from us. And knowing that Mika has to live with that can't be fun for him.
Yeah, I can. As I said, I'll co-sign. I don't know the show, but it sounds very tragic, unfortunately.
Yeah,
All right. So my next one,
go ahead.
I have Night Eye's death from My Hero Academia.
Okay.
So you he dies at the end of one of the darker arcs in the series, with they're pretty much taking on the uh last remaining remnants of the Yakuza, um, and the big bad ends up being a little too powerful. You get Deku being able to overcome it in the end and save the day. Night Eye has pretty much had a rock about that big forced through his stomach, and he's pretty much there in the hospital, and he's hooked up to machines. His protege was shot with a quirk erasing bullet, and so he's lost his powers. His protege was, in his mind, the next great pro hero, and he knows he's dying, and he uses his quirk one last time to view the future and tell uh, Mirio, who his protege, you'll still be one of, if not the greatest hero in the world. You've just even without your powers, you can still do it, and you feel the emotion because I mean he's pretty much trained Mirio from early on in his education for being a hero, and Mirio is always smiling, and you see him just break down in tears, and it is a very sad moment, and it takes, as I said, it takes place kind of darkening the victory that they had. They've managed to defeat the Yakuza, save Eri, who is the main target to save from in this arc, but yet they're losing a pro hero with the ability of future sight and all this. So it is very hard.
Yeah, I can definitely understand. And that, especially just the idea of he tells him, "Oh, hey, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna keep moving forward and becoming as strong as possible." But the sense, even with his power, you don't. It's not like his protege really knows. Like, are you just saying this to make me feel better, or you believe in me, or do you actually see? So I could see that being doubly hard for him.
Yeah, and as I said, and with that character Mirio being such a, how to put it, such a like a light. He's always happy, always smiling. Even when he's had issues in the past, he always was cracking jokes. And you see him break down. That's again where you feel the emotion come from a lot, is that he truly cared for Night Eye. He viewed him as more than just his mentor. He viewed him not necessarily as a father, but as the one who believed in him to be the next great hero. And that's where it really comes from.
Yeah, I can definitely understand. I co-sign onto that.
All right. So your next one?
These are
All right.
honorable mentions, correct?
Yep.
All right. Uh, I don't really. Maru misses his mom from Osamake.
Okay.
Okay, so the thing about Maru or Haru or whichever one, he goes by a couple of different names in the show. Oh, he was a prodigy actor, but his mom ended up passing away, and she was the main reason that he decided to be an actor. So after she passes, he kind of goes through a funk where he says, "I don't really want to act anymore. I'd rather just be my own person, get a boring job, basic sort of things." But at the same time, look, I don't necessarily love how the multiple girls loving him aspect is done, but there's this girl named Maria who he was really good friends with, and his mom was actually very nice to her. Like, she was usually over, they would hang out, she would give her advice, that sort of thing. And she's kind of the cliche I've talked about of she's like the one girl who actually is willing to admit, yeah, I like this person, I want to marry this person, that sort of thing. And all the girls have a different moment with him towards the end of the series. And as they're working on a project, he starts to break down because it doesn't always go as well for them as they should. And he just starts thinking to himself, it's just hard. Thank you guys for everything, but it's just hard because it's hard for me to do this without my mom. I miss her so much. And he starts breaking down crying, and she just pulls him in for a hug, and she's crying about it. And there are no funny jokes, there are no cutesy little moments or pervert antics. It's just a sad, heartbreaking moment of, yeah, you've lost somebody and you lost them years ago, but it's not that easy to get over somebody. And for such a comedic character like Maria, I was shocked that they used her for that. But if anything, it made it all the more heartbreaking that they were both going through that.
Yeah, that is something said that to think about. Just the idea of time heals all wounds, but at different rates for everybody. And sometimes old wounds can be reopened, unfortunately, and cause pain again. And so to feel that again, I can understand that that would be very hard and uh, something that would you would need to work on to overcome.
Yeah, yeah. Try watching this on a plane to your relative's house, and you're just like, huh, all right, where's the joke coming? Where's the I don't want to be crying watching this on the plane, so maybe I just wait to watch the next episode.
Yeah, I can see that would be not something maybe you would want to watch in public of it, just especially with how emotional it could be.
Yeah, it's it's legitimately a heartbreaking moment. And the crazy thing is, the series ended. The series ended after the next episode, so those two never really got that much of a moment of closure together. Maybe the manga has, but I wouldn't know.
All right, but yeah, I can definitely see that being very sad.
Yeah. Let's move on.
All right, so my first honorable mention is when Rimuru comes back to Tempest and finds a large number of his friends and allies dead. And that time I got reincarnated as a slime. So this is kind of towards the middle of season two. I forgot where Rimuru was, but he was out with several of his other allies, and a neighboring village of humans has pretty much come in. They fate that the demi humans, the orcs, the goblins, and the other kind of different species that they have living in this city were attempting to attack them or antagonize them, and ended up killing Rimuru's several of Rimuru's allies. And you come back and he's walking through the dead. They've got and he's angry, and you feel this anger and this sadness coming off of him. And he's trying to come up with a plan because all he wants to do is resurrect them. And right now there's a, if I remember correctly, it's a 0.01% chance of the ritual that he could do succeeding to save their to resurrect them. And so he's very upset. He puts on this mask that dampens his powers, and it cracks. He's so angry, so upset about all this death that was brought on these relatively peaceful members of his village that he's built, that his powers, he's losing control of his powers, and he just pretty much destroys the mask that he has to control his powers. And it's just one of those moments that you feel that. And there's other characters, of course, because these were these are pretty much people. Yes, they're considered demi-humans, but they have the same emotional capacity as humans, and they're upset because these are their loved ones that have died. So it's a big mass mourning session, pretty much. But then he discovers that it is resolved later on in season, because he discovers he can become a demon lord and get up to 99.9 or something percent to be able to get the ritual to work right. But you still at this point feel the emotion that he's so upset about losing all these members of his found family, pretty much.
Yeah, that's always the trope that gets me. With a found family going through something like that, it never goes well for me.
Yeah, and as I said, it's from what I remember, that's how one episode pretty much ends. Is that he comes back, the mask cracks, and it's the next episode is when you kind of he starts the plan to start that, but to end an episode there is very, that's where it gets you.
Yeah, it's a pretty bold way, but it also kind of makes it so you want to see what happens next, so it's effective.
Yeah, exactly.
But I can co-sign. So my next one,
Go right ahead.
uh, the death of Kintaro and the old man from Gintama.
Okay.
You haven't seen these episodes, and honestly, I'm okay if you skip these episodes because it involves an old man and his dog dying.
Oh.
Yeah. So as ridiculous, as serious as an arc as it is, it's also completely ridiculous because the old man, and yes, apparently that is his name. I don't know if they actually gave him one. And he's been living for a long time, and he's been telling people that he's kind of been telling people it's okay if they die. Go ahead and die because he doesn't want to die and the people around him to be sad. At the same time, though, he's grown remorseful because he's the only person he really knows left. It's just him and his dog, Kentaro. And it turns out the dog's an alien from another planet, and he's feuding with a bunch of cats from another planet because I guess alien dogs and alien cats have to hate each other too. But ultimately, I, Gintoki and Kagura help him out. I don't remember Shinpachi doing anything, but okay. And ultimately, they decide to go at the end of the arc when everything's resolved. Kentaro and the old man have one last walk together, and they're basically telling each other, "Oh, I'm going to make it further than you. Oh, please, you're going to slow me down, so I'm going to keep going." And they're both walking, and they're both collapsing because they're old. And at the dog set Kentaro the dog sadly dies first, but the old man says, "I won, but thank you for always keeping me company." And they both pass on. And then in the next 10 seconds or so, it's a little bit of a flash forward, and it's Kagura leaving flowers for the old man and the dog. So, yeah, I couldn't handle the rest of the day after seeing that.
Yeah, no, if I ever do watch Gintama, that's which episodes are these so I can
I think it's 129 and 130, something like that. I have no idea.
uh, if I ever see like something like if it starts out like this, I may have to just skip those episodes.
129 to 130. I kind of just guessed that.
But yeah, this definitely sound like episodes. I don't know. Definitely, unless they have some sort of repercussion later on, I definitely may have to skip those episodes if I watch it.
There's little to none. It's just an episode to punch you in the feelings, and it worked.
That's something you would not expect from a show like Gintama that's supposed to be very comedic and all that. But from what I've seen and heard, there are even arcs that get very dark in Gintama.
Yeah, episode 27 is a completely filler and it's one episode, and even that, like, it involves somebody died who we just meet, and I'm like, holy crap, why?
All right, that is that's a lot.
Yeah, don't worry. It had Gintama. They have some pretty ridiculous stuff that make you think, okay, the sad moments are worth it, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. So my next honorable mention.
Go for it.
This is another one that is not necessarily as bad now, but is as a kid, this one really hit me. Another one, Mega Man's deletion in Mega Man NT Warrior.
Yep.
So this one, as I said, can't hit more as a kid because you don't necessarily know if Mega Man's coming back or what state he'll be in if he ever does come back. Of course, he does in a few episodes, but it's the end of the Net One Grand Prix. It's him versus Chad and Proto Man. They pretty much Mega Man sacrifices himself to save Proto Man. He gets deleted. That's the end of the episode. And if I remember correctly, there was like a 2 or 3 week time span where they didn't show any new episodes.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, is that how they're ending it? And of course, the next set of episodes, it's like 3 more episodes of them discovering a way of bringing Mega Man back thanks to his special programming. But it takes those episodes to get there. And with the hiatus, it felt like, wow, they ended it on that note. He's gone. They deleted. That's the end of it. And it's a heartbreaking moment, especially as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, I can especially considering the fact that, well, like, here's the thing. A lot of people might argue, well, it's I almost said Geo. A lot of people would argue that Land's just kind of, well, Land doesn't really do a whole lot. He's just kind of a composite character. In a sense, you can kind of agree with that, but he's still likable. You don't want to see him sad losing his best friend. And it's just a case of, well, it's just like, even if the characters don't go through as much development as this other character or that other character, they're still likable. And when something happens to them and they're sad, you feel it too.
Yeah, and he's from what I remember, he kind of pauses at because the stadium is pretty much sinking into the sea at this point after because there's a big storm outside, and he's trying to figure out what to do. He still wants to save Mega Man, and there's nothing he can do at this point. Mega Man is gone, and he's just standing there not able to move, and I think and his friends have to pretty much drag him out of there.
Yeah, I can definitely agree. Sure, everything worked out in the long run, but at the same time, in the moment, we didn't know what was going to happen.
Exactly.
All right, my last honorable mention
Go right ahead.
from Naruto Shippuden, Sai fights his brother.
Yes.
Look, I know that I'm one of the few people who actually liked Sai from the beginning, but at the same time, he grew up without his emotions. He learned to suppress them for the job he had. And of course, thanks to Naruto and friends, he learned more about forming bonds with people and opening up. But we never saw him fully get there until he had to deal with his resurrected brother. And the whole time, you can tell he clearly doesn't want to do what he's doing, but he also gets really angry for like the first time ever in the series. He's like, I'm gonna stop this and I'm gonna protect the people around me, and I can't hold back my rage anymore. And ultimately, as you see that as his brother is fading away, his brother has seen how Sai has grown and he's proud of that. But then you just see tears pouring down Sai's face as he realizes there are advantages to opening up and being happy, but there are also some drawbacks to it. But at the same time, like, it fully kind of completed his character for me. And as happy as it was in some senses, it's kind of heartbreaking to see that he had to basically fight his own brother and go through everything he did, and him
Yeah.
finally opening up about it.
Yeah, because isn't this is technically their second fight. Their first fight was like to get into Root, if I remember correctly, and it's kind of they bookend the story on each end. It's the first one is to suppress your emotions to fight and get the job and survive, and the second one is, but now there's people that I'm willing to fight for, but I have to use my emotions to actually be able to do this. And it's a nice bookend to both section, or to the start of his story and the end of his story throughout, that we find out throughout Shippuden.
Yeah, especially since you can still kind of tell there's some social awkwardness with Sai, but for the most part, you saw it was kind of something he had to go through. Because now, from the set, well, for the most part, because of everything going on in Boruto, but he's living a happy life with a wife and a kid, but it's still a big amount of pain that he had to go through to get it.
Exactly. It's a lot. And he kind of has a really nice story at the end where he gets his own happy ending because he gets to marry Ino and is reigning what's his son's name? I can't remember.
Jin?
Yeah. So it's definitely an interesting story for them to have.
Yeah. But yeah, just Sai opening up as somebody who was interested from the very beginning. I was so proud, but I was still saddened by just how he got there.
Yeah, I wasn't as big a fan to start of Sai. I definitely, after the once it was through that first arc where he uh was like, okay, is he on their side? Is he not? That back and forth, I didn't really care for. But once we got through that, I really started liking Sai.
And apparently, he and Shino are trying to stand out more, which I'm like, guys, I love you, but please don't.
Yeah, that's not a good thing for either of them, probably.
Yeah, but that's my Naruto one. So go ahead. So, what's your final honorable mention?
I'll go with my Naruto one as well, and that's Yakiho's sacrifice in Naruto Shippuden.
Yep.
So, what is it? It's not Danzo, but it's similar to that. The leader of the Hidden Rain Village,
Hanzo?
Hanzo. I knew it was something like that.
Yeah, that sucks because I like Hanzo too.
Yeah, but Hanzo pretty much is destroying the Akatsuki, which at this point isn't the terrorist organization that we know throughout the series. It's more of a freedom fighter. They're trying to free the Hidden Rain Village from Hanzo's tyranny, and most of them are killed except for Yakiho. Oh god, the other two
Nagato
orphans.
and Konan?
Yep, and they pretty much he throws down a kunai and says, "Kill Nagito, or uh, kill one of your friends and the other two can live. And Nagato picks up the kunai and said, pretty much just saying, I'm not going to do it. And Yakiko throws himself onto the kunai to save his friends. This does kind of trigger Nagato to become pain and pretty much just try to destroy everything. But you feel that he's trying to do this for the right reasons. He's trying to save his friends by sacrificing himself and throwing himself on the kunai. But just you see him smiling. He's trying to be strong for them despite the fact that he's killing himself. And it's a very sad moment, and you see why Nagito became the villain that he does for the greater part of Naruto and Naruto Shippuden.
Yeah, I completely agree. It gets to the point where you kind of start to realize, wow, Hanzo's kind of a monster, and which is both a good and a bad thing, because as a villain, you want somebody who's intimidating, but at the same time, you're also kind of like, huh, he was kind of just showed up in some flashbacks, and after that, he didn't really do that much.
Yeah, and it's kind of implied that he was a lot weaker when after this fight or something. Because if I remember correctly, Nagito heavily injures him,
Yeah.
but still, it's one of those that it takes a long time, and the next thing we know, he's dead, and it's the Akatsuki are ruling the Hidden Rain Village. So
Yeah, and especially because it's like what they like Minato talked about out with Naruto. It's like I hate pain, I hate all this, and it's just like, well, he can't just be doing this for no reason. He's gone through stuff himself. Like hatred isn't born just for nothing. He's not doing this because he's bored. And then once we learn just everything that happened, we're like, oh, I kind of see it. Does it make him more sympathetic? Yes. Does it make up for killing Jiraiya? Absolutely not.
no, and that was another moment I was debating for this list, but I felt Yakiho's sacrifice was just something we haven't talked about, and that was why I wanted to bring it up.
Heck, in that similar vein, I thought about saying Conan's death by Obito, but at the same time, I'm like that made me more angry than anything in the sense of why the hell you let her live this long? Just okay, I don't know. That moment made me more angry than anything.
Yeah, it felt like she should have been more in the final battle of something fighting against uh, pretty much those that have been controlling the her and her friends behind the scenes for their entire lives, pretty much.
Yeah, but I can definitely co-sign the law, especially since it led to so much. The loss of Yahiko, just I understand. I completely co-sign.
All right. So your final one?
Okay, I don't really know how to categorize this as a moment, but I'm gonna try. Tomoko's loneliness from Watamote.
Okay.
So there's an episode. I want to say it's when it's they're during summer break, and Tomoko's kind of trying to find a special moment to share with somebody because her anxiety does not exactly do her any favors. Her brother's out doing stuff with friends, and her dad is always working, and her mom's usually at the house. But she's been trying her best to make friends throughout the series, with mixed success at best. But at the same time, she can't find somebody to spend just the summer with, just hang out with for a day. So she ends up going to, I guess, a convenience store and getting one of those cups of noodles. And she's like, "Oh, this is fine. This is a good way of spending." And yet, but you can see it's killing her. That everybody else is out with somebody. Everybody else has people with them. She's alone, and you see that she's starting to tear up. And some of that even like she's trembling. And normally when Tomoko's portrayed as miserable, it's kind of portrayed as over the top and comedic. But this is heartbreaking. It feels realistic. She's shaking. She can't enjoy her meal. Well, it's just sad because look, we can talk about death, we can talk about sacrifices or anything, but it's none of that. She's just lonely and there's nobody around her. And now, of course, it has somewhat of a happy ending because a stray cat walks up and she starts playing with it, and I guess they become friends. But at the same time, it's one of the moments where I've said before about Tomoko. There are moments where she does something or she does something wrong, and you kind of want her to get her comeuppance, but it's moments like this where you really just want to reach through the screen and give this girl a hug for everything she's going through.
Yeah, I can understand the uh just being alone without just I'm trying to think of how to describe it. Just that loneliness and seeing the people around you always having other people with them, but you being alone, that can be really hard.
Yeah. And the worst part is, it's heavily implied that all she has to do is ask, and people are like, yeah, sure, hang out with us. But her anxiety takes over. Like, nobody really bullies her. Nobody really has anything bad to say about her. It's just a case of if you just push yourself and talk to people, things will get better. But her anxiety is so bad that she's alone because of it. Now, of course, apparently in the manga, she has a handful of friends now, and things are working out. But in that moment, you just like I said, you just want to give this girl a hug and tell her, "Hey, hey, I'll sit with you."
Yeah, I mean that brings up. I mean, thinking back on even just my own past with that sort of stuff, I it took a lot out of me to ask uh, one of our friends, Brock, from freshman year, before we even really knew each other. I didn't for like the first week. I didn't talk with very many of the people I was in class with, and I just happened to see Brock and one of the other people in our class sitting before class, and I just started talking with them, and that led to me meeting Jabari, who was your roommate, and then we ended up becoming friends after that, or well, roommates, and then maybe friends. I don't know. We're still
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
figure
but
that
now it's
out.
at yes, but now it's at the point where you kind of wish maybe I could just talk to Brock instead and nobody else.
Yeah, that would be worked out. I don't know.
Yeah, but like I've said, Tomoko does a lot of stuff that makes you question her. But at the same time, nobody deserves to be alone. And as I've said before, I'd be like, hey, Tomoko, that's your name. Well, no, you and me are friends now. Let's hang out. What are we doing?
Yeah, I always wish that more people would just be accepting of that sort of thing and help embrace people who may not be able to come out of their shells on their own.
Yeah, exactly. But just that scene in particular just gets to me.
I can understand it. All right, so my final one.
Yeah, let's wrap this up, please.
So this one is kind of a moment, but kind of a bit longer than that, and it's Urza's backstory from Fairy Tale. There's a lot more to it, but I was specifically talking about kind of her own knowledge of her backstory, which was she was an orphan captured by slavers for that served a dark guild and forced to work on creating what they call Tower to Heaven, if I remember correctly, something like that. And um, she befriends several other kid slaves, um, and one of them is kind of becomes her love interest later on in Jalal, but she, with the help of a man who was captured, lead a rebellion against their captors, and they win. But throughout this rebellion, Jalal was taken and tortured and corrupted into a dark wizard, and pretty much makes it so that Urza can escape on a boat, but her friends and all that gets trapped, and that makes her friends think that she just abandoned them. And you, especially later on when you're seeing this arc where she's meeting her old friends, they legit think that they just were abandoned by her, and now they're working with Jalal to finish the construction of this tower. They pretty much, because of his corruption, have taken over that. And from an early stage, she loved Jalal, but he's now much darker. So she's just had nothing but loss. She's an orph. She's been an orphan, a slave, a victorious rebellion leader, and then lost everything again, all in the span of probably a month or so in her time. And
Jeez.
it hits hard. And as I said, when she later on meets her friends again, they all pretty much hate her and think that she betrayed them and left them to suffer on their own so that she could escape.
Please tell me it works out and they learn the truth.
They do, and even Jalal gets uncorrupted. Pretty much, another wizard is pretty much controlling his mind and making him do dark deeds. But as I said, you still feel that there's just all this stuff that keeps happening, and as I said, she gets to join Fairy Tale and all that and become one of their strongest wizards. But you still feel her backstory, and you learn more and more about it, like who her mom is, and that she actually saved people back when the slavers were attacking. She was saving another little girl. So it's there's a lot to her backstory as you go on throughout the series.
Yeah, I can. It sounds like hell for her.
Yeah, it was one of those that, of all the backstories, hers is probably the most tragic of any of the members of Fairy Tale. It's between her and kind of Gray, I would say, have some of the worst backstories.
Yeah, I can co-sign on to that.
All right, you ready to wrap up?
Please, I'm surprised that we got through this without crying.
For now.
Yeah, but ladies, gentlemen, and others, what are some of your saddest moments in anime? Whether they're super dramatic, not that dramatic, it doesn't even have to be any like super shonen or action stuff. You can try and mix it up a bit, and don't worry, we'll be doing a list of some of the most heartwarming moments in anime, and oddly enough, those might be the ones I start crying through, because those are the ones that get to me more than anything.
Yeah, those, as I said, these moments make those moments that much better. So I'm really excited for that list.
Yeah, honestly, I might have to condense them because I have too many heartwarming moments I enjoy.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, but be sure to let us know. Well, like, comment, subscribe, and all that other nonsense, and we will see you next time. This has been Alex.
And Richard.
And you have been listening to Anime Egotists. Good night. Peace easy.